Florida just passed a law where if you're going 100 or more, or 50 over, depending on the situation, whichever is least probably, they can put you in jail for 3 months, second offense, a year. Well, I find that interesting because statistically, for example, let's look at motorcycles. 6,000 motorcycle accidents per year. And there's 300,000 accidents caused by distracted drivers texting every year. So, question is, which one of those hurts more people, and which one of those should be enforced more harshly? Clearly, the one that does the most damage is the one that should be enforced and penalized the most harshly. However, maybe they make laws about it, but I don't ever see people getting in trouble or scared to use their phone. I drive around, and when I'm in this truck, I can look around me, and I would say 3 out of 5 people are on their phones everywhere I look. Some of them are eating in one hand and screwing around with their phone in the other hand. Now, I ride motorcycles all the time, and those are the people that kill you. But here's the thing. Why would they impose such a harsh penalty for speeders? You know, they're calling them the super speeder law. Why would they make the law that focuses on them when they actually are a small fraction of the amount of damage that's caused by drivers who are not paying attention or not following the rules, right? Well, here's the real reason. They can tell you it's about safety, they can tell you it's dangerous, they can tell you all these virtuous reasons why, but none of them are the real reason. The real reason is you're not allowed to talk back to the teacher. You're not allowed to object to the system openly. You can't be defiant. And people who are doing 100 miles an hour or 150 miles an hour on their motorcycle are kind of putting their middle finger up to the rules, because it's hardly an accident when you're doing 150. You're doing it on purpose. You know you're breaking a rule. Now, let's get real. Do you think the guy on the motorcycle on an open highway with no traffic, bothering nobody, making good time, enjoying his bike, going 150, really wants to hurt himself or get in a wreck? No. And do those people normally get in a wreck? No. The people that get in accidents on their motorcycles are normally at an intersection caused by idiots in their cars who aren't following the rules. So don't blame it on the bike guy, and don't blame it on the speed. Here's another thing about speed. I would say that if you looked at the driving history of every state highway patrol cop in the country, I would say 90% of them hit 100 at least once on a daily basis. But they're doing it in the pursuit of justice, right? They're doing it because they're enforcing the law. They're doing something dangerous for the betterment of mankind or whatever. Actually, when somebody passes them who's going 15 over, they take their time, put their donuts away, put their coffee away, and then they take off, and it's like, oh, the guy got a mile ahead, I gotta make up time, and he gets to enjoy the benefit of hauling ass in his cop car. That's the real reason. And they do it, and they love it, and they're above the law when they do it. You know, the amount of tyranny you live under can be measured by the amount of things that they can do that we can't. So, back to the point. They're enforcing this law. They've raised the penalties for speeding only because it is an act of open defiance. And there's all these people gonna drop these troll comments. Well, there's no reason to go that fast. I'm 60 years old and I've never done 100 miles an hour. Well, you've probably never cussed either. You know, there are a lot of people who have never explored the boundaries of life. They've never jumped out of a plane. They've never swam a mile. They've never done anything in violation of any of the rules, because they are the perfect, obedient, simple-minded peasant. And that's what you are. You know, the crab that tries to crawl out of the bucket because something don't feel right gets pulled back in the bucket by all the other stupid crabs. They just won't let him out. And when a guy is doing, you know, 100 or 150 miles an hour on his motorcycle, safely, believe it or not, it can be safely done. If it couldn't be, then they would forbid the cops from doing it on a daily basis, chasing somebody down because his headlight's out. But they don't, because there's nothing intrinsically dangerous about going fast. You just have to know when and where and use good judgment. And I should have the freedom to use good judgment. I hate it when they pass these laws in the name of safety, saving the children or saving the, you know, protecting the public, that boil down to, you got the idiot at the table who's not allowed to have a knife to cut his own steak because he'll hurt himself, so I can't have a knife either. You know, you got to lower the bar, and I have to comply with the lowest possible standard. It's insulting. It's really insulting, and it irritates me that they actually went out of their way to try to showcase themselves as heroes, because they made a new law to bring the hammer down on the nail that stands up just a little above the rest, and you're speeding on the highway. I would say almost every time I've been on the highway and somebody has flown by me on a bike or a sports car, and they're kind of doing their little slalom through traffic, you know, I'll watch them and I'll be like, that was a good move. You know, he didn't make me speed up or slow down or anybody else. The guy's just making time. I got nothing against that guy. And I wouldn't be happy if he got pulled over. If I saw him pulled over, I'd feel bad for him. You know, if he's got the nerve to risk the penalty to make good time for some reason, more power to him, man. Now, if I see some 18-year-old girl, you know, laughing, looking at the ceiling of her car, doing 100 through a residential zone, she's an idiot. And I've seen those wrecks. As a paramedic, I have seen those accidents where some moron just, you know, flat to the floor, don't know how to drive, and get in a wreck. They think it's a video game. I don't know what they're thinking. Okay, those people shouldn't do that. But that's them showing poor judgment. And you can't legislate good judgment. So by forcing people to comply with the lowest common denominator, i.e., I look at the speed limit sometimes posted on corners. You know, 35-mile-an-hour corner. Well, maybe at night in the snow in a school bus, because there's a couple roads around here that go around a lake. All the corners are 20s and 30s. Man, I'm ripping them things at 65 on my bike comfortably, really comfortably, just glide through them. You don't got to go 20 miles an hour to go around a corner with a 200-foot radius. But anyway, it's just a little bit insulting, and I guess my point is, though, people should recognize this isn't about safety, so don't drink that Kool-Aid. The reason they made this super speeder law is so they look like they're virtuous, while at the same time cracking down on the individuals that are displaying open defiance in front of the other peasants, because they don't want them to catch on that, hey, you know what, the laws are kind of constrictive, and I'm going to kind of choose to do things my way. Yeah. How do you feel about that?